Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview for the Fight Site. Today, we have another one of our special guests. We've got Victor Henry from RIZIN Fighting Championships, and we also have another guest, fellow Fight Site staff member, Phil. There's no way I can pronounce your last name, so I'll let you do it.
Yeah, my name is Philippe Pochard-Marchetti. How are you guys?
I'm doing all right, man.
Awesome. Before we begin, don't forget to check out thefightsite.com. You're going to be treated to a plethora of phenomenal articles by fantastic writers and analysts. Also, check out the Patreon, the podcasts. We're available on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Make sure you give us a positive rating, like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all of that, and definitely subscribe to the Patreon because there's a lot of extra content that you're available for you, and you get access to the Discord channel. Okay, Victor, how are you doing today? How's everything?
It's good, man. Southern California's weather is always really nice, and I burn up easy. So even when it's really nice, I'm freaking hot all the damn time. So, but it's better than being fucking cold. So we're good.
Oh, damn, I agree with that. You can always add another layer. You can only get naked.
Yeah.
And only in certain contexts too.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right into it. We only have you for roughly 30 minutes. So I wanted to definitely ask you about your upbringing, your story. It's one that more people should hear because it's a fascinating one. Tell us about your life, your upbringing, and how you got into martial arts.
All right. Well, I grew up in LA during the early 90s and everything. So I went through all that as far as the LA riots and the gangs that were going on at the time. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm pretty light skinned. And my dad being half, my dad is Mexican, so being half Mexican, and showing only the white side, a lot of people just assumed, oh, he's the crazy white kid, and a lot of the parents wouldn't let their kids play with me, not because I was white, because I had a lot of energy, so they called me V Diablo, because my mom called me VW, because she didn't want to call me Victor, because I was, obviously I'm a little kid. She didn't want to, she didn't want to call me by a manly name when I was a child. So she called me VW, which W means Wesley. Mm-hmm. So all the parents heard that. So they started calling me V Diablo, which means V devil in Spanish. And, so I had a handful of friends, and, growing up in, LA and having the drive-bys and and all the other gang violence that was going on, it kind of shaped me not to be like that, in a sense, to where I was always made to feel different anyways. And, you can only go so many directions with that. I chose to accept the fact that I was different and just doing things my own way, which eventually led me to skateboarding and finding friends in skateboarding. And then, of course, martial arts as soon as I graduated from junior high. Just briefly, I started doing Taekwondo because the high school that I was going to didn't have a football program. Now, I'm 5'7", 150 pounds of massive human being. So obviously football is not really going to be my forte. But, luckily for me, there was a local Taekwondo center. Started training there. And then as soon as I kicked one of my friends in the head, I knew this was for me. And mind you, at this time, I was still skateboarding. I was still part of some sports programs at my school. But, nothing was like kicking my friend, and him kicking me back. After a while of doing that, I got my black belt, got kicked out of my house for some girl problems, and then started doing grappling over in Marina Valley. Once I did that, moved back down to my mom's over here in LA, and then started grappling over with the Gracies in the Torrance Academy. After that, started going to Legends Mixed Martial Arts. From there, eventually met Josh Barnett, and the rest is history.
Well, jumping out of that, I mean, that's a hell of a history. One thing I wanted to, speaking briefly on that history, one thing that stuck out to me in that portrait was, are we ever going to see you have the Beehive haircut again?
Probably, man. I mean, I'm down with it. I'm down with it. I mean, right now, with all this, for me personally, I actually had an argument with Josh with this before because I always let my hair grow out. I don't care for doing it. I don't care for putting gel in it. It's just for me, whatever. I'm gonna go train anyways. All that gel's gonna come out. I'm gonna go take a nap and then I'm gonna go to work or I'm gonna go train again. Why am I gonna throw my hair up? So for me, I was like, dude, I'm just gonna grow my hair out. He goes, dude, it just costs too much to maintain. I'm like, how? What do you mean it costs too much to maintain? I'm just gonna let my hair grow. And he goes, what about haircuts? I was like, I'm letting my hair grow. There's no haircuts when you're letting your hair grow. And I was like, dude, I mean, I know guys that go there like every 2 weeks, and their barber probably hooks them up $20, $20 every 2 weeks, 20, 40, 60, 80. Meanwhile, I'm looking like this. I spent a big fat zero, taking machines to my face and I'm saving money, So that's the way I see it. He was like, "No, but you gotta look presentable." I was like, "Bro, I am presentable."
You gotta look presentable for your job of fighting in a ring. I definitely that makes sense. Listen, as a Jew on a spiritual level, I feel that big fat zero in spending, so that makes perfect sense to me.
Hey, I got a joke for one. I got a joke for you guys. Why do Jewish women like circumcised penises? Because they like anything that's 15% off. That's fucked up. That's messed up.
It's not wrong, although yeah. I'm gonna let Phil take the lead on striking because I know he has a ton of questions. He was gushing about your front kick finish, so I'll just go for it.
Yeah, I have actually just for the fun fact, for the people who watch this. Mm-hmm. So we made this interview because Josh Barnett replied to a tweet that I posted about Pedro Munoz's kick. And he said, oh, yeah, Munoz, he has great kicks. And he probably learned a lot from Victor. So I knew who you were at the time because I watched your fight when you fucked up Kanehara, which is one of my favorite Japanese fighters. So I was like, okay. That was a great fight, by the way. And I just wanted to talk. Did you start Muay Thai after Taekwondo, or did you never competed Muay Thai before MMA?
All right. So after Taekwondo, like I said, I started doing specifically jiu-jitsu. And then after I left the Gracie Academy, I started training at Legends. And I started working with my trainer, Jimmy Romero. And he told me, dude, you use your kicks way too much and your hands are sloppy garbage. So let's pull away from the kicks and let's start adding the hands. Okay, so I started using my hands more often. And then my Taekwondo kind of took a back seat for a while. After a while, and then after I started training with Josh Barnett, obviously, Josh Barnett at the time was working with Erik Paulson, and Erik Paulson has such a vast knowledge of martial arts. It's it's incredible. If I could keep just 25% of what Paulson knows, I think I'll be an excellent Hall of Famer martial artist one day because he just knows everything about anything. He could disarm an elephant from on top of a motorcycle. Like he knows that much, as far as martial arts. So guys would come in, and we had guys like Nikolai Soniak from France, of course, learning off Erik Paulson, learning off Jerome Le Banner, coming in to work with Josh. And, we just got such a wealth of striking knowledge just coming in through the doors all the time. So, you pull things from here, you pull things from there, you pull things. And, of course, one of my training partners, Shohei Yamamoto, I mean, he's a Kyokushin black belt, high-level guy. So pulling things from him, pulling things from everybody, that helped shape my style to where I can adjust to basically any striking style. If somebody wants to be a boxer on me, then I can box with them, and then I can apply my kicks. If I fight somebody who's very traditional martial arts, well, I'm used to seeing that too because Shohei Yamamoto, French kickboxing with Savat, Muay Thai. I've done time in Thailand with over in Pathum Thani with Santianoy, which is where Brian Popejoy and the guy from Australia, what's his name? I forget his name. But, just a wealth of striking knowledge is always revolving, So me constantly adopting my fighting style to who I'm fighting, is paramount. So little known fact, I was supposed to fight Pedro Munoz when we first started. I was supposed to fight him in Respecting the Cage back when he was like 3-0. I think I was like 1. No, he was 4-0, and I think I was 2-0. We were supposed to fight for the respect in the cage title, but my medicals, I got them all done, but they didn't come in time. So we both made weight, and then the fight just never happened. So then, so then we're in the same local scene. Ed Soares hit me up one time to fight Pedro Munoz on like a week's notice, and I was like, "You're crazy. You're crazy." I mean, I'm down to fight and everything, but that's kind of a fight that I already knew that what the position was. They wanted to feed him some guys, and I was down to fight Pedro. I just wanted a proper training camp, to fight him on a week's notice, especially at that point. I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. So eventually, Chad George hits me up over at CMMA, and he's like, hey, yeah, come down, blah, blah, blah. So we start training again, and I've known Chad since I was 18 years old, training with Jimmy Romero. So training with Pedro Munoz, he's got a sick guillotine, sick headlock system, and Chad has adopted a lot of his headlock system stuff. But when it came to the striking, I think I had the edge on that because he was working more Brazilian style shoot box, even working with Rafael Cordeiro, style where it's just power, speed, and go. Where I'm trying to do sneaky stuff. I'm trying to do the traditional martial arts stuff where I'm stabbing poking my front kick in there and doing all this stuff. So we're learning off each other, which is why I probably think that Josh was thinking, oh yeah, that we train with together all the time. So that's probably where that front kick came from. I know he's got a lot of great coaches over at ATT and stuff like that, and he's even training with Kyoji Horiguchi. So I wouldn't be surprised if he, added on top of with Kyoji.
But so many great stuff that you said in your reply. Yeah, so first, Pedro he sent a lot of love to you. I interviewed him last week, and he had nothing but great things to say about you, just doing the messenger here. Thank you for the French love for French kickboxing. I appreciate that. And and actually, you mentioned that you were supposed to fight him after your second pro fight, which was after Gary Michaels, if I'm correct.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, and you mentioned that at first, so your kicks were much better than your hands, and you had to level up. And you did something pretty cool in that fight. In the finishing sequence, you shifted like a 1-2 from orthodox to southpaw, which allowed you to cover the distance while you get your left hand, and then you left head kick him. And I was like, oh, for someone who doesn't have that background with his hands, that was pretty sick actually, because you distract him with the hands and land the left kick. So how would you say would have been the person that helped you the most with getting your striking together? If you have to name one person?
Josh Barnett, because obviously he's my head coach. He sees where I struggle and he sees where I excel. So he puts me in the places where I struggle. He goes, okay, I want you to pull back on this, but I want you to do more of this, because you're being so successful with this one tool, but I want you to learn the other tools. I started boxing with Josh's coach, Jamal Abdullah, who has professional boxers, I should say. And he's picked up my hands, my hand game a lot. And, I can't, and also Uchenna Anyakam, who trains Curtis Millender, that used to be in the UFC.
Yeah.
So, it's just so many different striking styles. Of course, Jamal Abdullah is more of he's a boxing coach, and he has solid old school basics. Solid. We do calisthenics, and then we box, and then we do more calisthenics. And then when it comes to Uchenna Anyakam, he's got such a rangy game and speed and different angles and all that, and just learning how to use your footwork. And he's not taking away from anything of mine; he's adding to it. So when that final sequence, I knew that once I started touching my right hand, that I was going to be able to knock him out. Because I may not have a bunch of power, but I know that I can when I put it there, I know I can put it there right. So in the first round, I was standing orthodox. I brought up my right leg and I set it down, and then that's what gave him that takedown, because I was close, but I was too close. So he took me down, and that was the end of the first round. So I knew, okay, I gotta start stepping on the gas, start putting it on, start putting it on. So when I brought that right leg up and he started backing up, I was like, okay, I got it now. So that's when I launched that left kick, and then from the southpaw, I launched the left kick, stepped down, and then threw my right hand with it. And then once that first one touched, well, I knew how to throw that second one. Boom, reload it, boom, hit him with that second one. And then, of course, go in and finish it off. I heard, that people were calling it that it was a quick stoppage. It was a quick stoppage. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm going to stop when the referee tells me to stop. I'm not going to keep going and just be, hey, you guys satisfied with the stop? But we have to remember that RIZIN, we can kick people, we can soccer kick. So at any point, if I wanted to pull back, I can soccer kick Kanahara, which would be only overkill at that point. At that point, the fight was over.
If you took a kick him, I would probably cry. So thank you for not doing it. And just before I let Ben go in on, I just have a question. Where your nickname come from?
All right, so my nickname came because I'm half Mexican, and Josh says, "All right, we need to appeal to your Latin crowd, the Mexican people that might like you." And I was like, "Okay, well, my dad has been calling me El Monstruo since I was a kid. Why not El Monstruo, which means monster?" And then Josh goes, "Nah, you're not much of a monster." And I was like, "Well, then what do you want from me, man?" He goes, "All right." So then a couple days later, he goes, "What about La Mongosta?" And I was like, "Really? You want to call me a mongoose?" So La Mongosta calls me. It means the mongoose. And he goes, "Yeah, it's because you're like you get into things and you're curious and then you're a little ferocious animal." And I was like, "Oh, all right, whatever. I'll be La Mongosta." I mean, I'm not happy with it, but you don't choose your nicknames. So
awesome.
It does show how much he does know you, because like when I'm watching your fights and I'm like, yeah, that fits. That just fits.
That fits. Yeah. Well, I guess you're on his side.
I got a rep from my guy Josh. I'm a huge fan. Huge fan of him forever. So might as well support him. All right, so let me talk about your grappling, because I watched a bunch of your grappling matches, the BBI and stuff like that, and I watched your MMA fights, and I watch your work in the clinch and your ground and pound, and all of it is just, I feel like there's a lot that people should be looking at with your game and taking more away from it, because your cardio and pace are top flight. And we spoke with Sean Madden, the Elevation Fight Team striking coach, and he was talking about how they constantly talk about pace, and the EFT guys all have that, but you have that in spades too, and I think it's really important. But it's also the way you apply it. When you're in the clinch, right? You strike into the clinch, whatever it is. There's never a moment where you're really resting, and there's never a moment you're allowing your opponent to rest. And that forces engagements that are not necessarily to your opponent's advantage. Even if they get the takedown, you're immediately working to get up or to establish a submission attempt, something. And I want to know, that's just your personality, or that's like a deliberate stylistic adjustment for your fights, and it's planned, I guess?
Yeah.
Or is it more just you?
It's a little A and B, man. I mean, I get people in here and they're trying to whip my ass all the time in practice anyways. That 100% I do get tired. I am just too stubborn to give up. So, I mean, I'm in the clinch and I'm tired. I mean, I was fighting Kyler Phillips over here at a local show in Los Angeles, and what's it called? I remember Chad George yelling at me in the third round, 2 more minutes. And I remember thinking, are you goddamn kidding me? It's been an hour. I've been fighting this guy for an hour, but I just got to keep going. I have no choice but to keep going. I mean, the time is going to expire no matter how I feel. No matter how I feel, it's going to happen. I'm in this situation no matter how I feel, so I got to start putting it on. I mean, for my training partners, I'm not the nicest guy as far as what I do. I'll elbow people in the shoulder. I'll put it in their ribs. I'll put my chin right in their shoulder blade. I do all sorts of these little tactics because Josh has done it to me. So that's what I'll do. I'll stay in there. I'll be completely active. I'll do all sorts of whatever I need to do to get the win. Barring poking dudes in the eyes and
right.
Doing all this illegal stuff. But I get in there. I get tired, and I get too stubborn to quit. So that's what I'm gonna do.
And the method of takedown defense that you actually use also is very interesting, because there's very few people who you could describe as bulletproof. I would say like maybe Jose Aldo or something like that, right? But but when you get taken down, you do use a lot of the same tactics as someone like Jose does. You're immediately hipping up and trying to force that momentum. You never let the momentum stop.
Yeah.
At what point? But you also will not let it stop by trying to get back up, or you'll immediately work for submissions. Is it just a feel thing for you when you do that, or is it more like based on where you're ending up, you'll choose to either try and get back up or try to attack submissions?
It's a feel thing for me, man. Sometimes things are loose and I can feel them close to my knee, so I try to clear my knee and get the hell up. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes they're just clamping so far on my hip that I'm not going to clear that knee, so I might as well just start taking momentum left or right. So when I get in those exchanges, I mean, like I said, I was in here. I was in here for years with Pedro Munoz, shooting on me, taking me down, trying to choke my head, do all that. And then of course I'm working with guys like Michael Perez, who is the 125 LFA champ, and he's got a wealth of wrestling knowledge. And then of course Chad's in here with his grappling pedigree, with combat submission, the slap jujitsu, slap people in the face jujitsu. So I have these grapplers coming in on me and just wanting to hold me down so much. And I'm just like, dude, just let me stand up and punch you in the face, would you? And I know they're not going to let me do that. So I got to work. I got to work.
That makes sense. And again, not leading into the one of the other questions I have is, how do you, you had two losses very close to each other, Silva and Ueda. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I happen to personally, watching scoring those, I didn't agree with the scoring there. And I want to know how do you look at a fight like that, and where do you grow? Because like, I imagine you watch them and with Josh and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm sure you guys scored them for you maybe, but is it harder to learn from a loss that's so close, where you did a lot of things really correctly and could very arguably have won that fight? Or is it harder to learn from that kind of loss? Or is it easier because just little tweaks?
I tell you what, it's easier because at the end of the day, Josh has the same answer. You should have finished him. That's it. You should have finished him. If with Ueda and Silva, they essentially both had the same game plan. Let's hang on to me. Let's not get punched, and let's try and not get tired. Of course, you see in that third round, I beat the holy crap out of Silva.
Oh yeah.
And then in the third round with Ueda, I just needed a little bit more space so I can get my finish like I did the first time. In my second fight against Ueda, when I lateral dropped him, I still have any. Yeah. You know what? Actually, like for that fight, I didn't have trouble cutting weight, but just my body was not recovering. It was a hard one. Like I went into that fight kind of like I don't know if you guys did you guys see the Ferguson Gaethje fight this past weekend?
Yep.
Did you guys notice how it kind of seemed like Tony Ferguson was over it?
The one thing I noticed specifically was like he didn't seem as obviously it's not an excuse, like that's why like we're not doing that, I'm sure, but he looked I don't know, I use this term like they still have a six-pack but it's slightly melted. I don't know how to put it. That's kind of he looked a little like skinny fat almost, like he was obviously in great shape and stuff like that, but he kind of looked a little bit. And then I looked at pictures of him and video of him like from the previous fights. I'm like, he didn't seem as ready. It could have been from that second weight cut. Yeah.
From what I noticed, just from fighter to another competitor to another competitor, it just kind of seemed like to me like he was over it. Like you had been training for months for a certain opponent who was going to grapple the hell out of you.
Yep.
Only to find out he's not going to fight because of religious reasons, and then he couldn't get out of the country, and then the whole COVID thing happened. Then everything is shut down. Is the fight going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Okay, it is going to happen, but where? And then of course making weight, and then all of a sudden having a late replacement who can wrestle but chooses to strike instead. So you're training for months and months and months, only to have your fight canceled, and then come on and then canceled and then opponent switch. Like for me, when I see that, I kind of think, man, he's just kind of over it. Like, he just wants, like, dude, like, your emotions and everything is just so going left and right all the time. It's like, it's just over it. I was not over it when I fought Ueda, but my body was just not recovering properly. You know, I don't know if it was just vitamin P deficiency but it just, you know, when I got to Japan, I was tired. When I cut my weight, I was tired. And when I fought, I was tired. But that does not change the fact that I had a fight in front of me. Mm-hmm. I knew Ueda was going to try to grapple me, and I wasn't able to finish him. Even when I had that triangle locked in the first round, just my legs were just like, and I was even thinking, I remember catching myself thinking, man, I just need to finish this triangle, then I can go home and sleep. But that's the wrong attitude you got to have, man. You know, like, I'm in there, and now every time I go in there, the first thing I think is I got to make this person suffer as much as possible. Because then that brings it out of me to actually perform. Yeah, so in short, to answer your question, it's easy. Finish people. You know, if you don't finish them, you're going to probably lose, because for the most part, I've been set up in my career. I've been set up to lose. It's always the up-and-comer guy, or it's, I'm flying into their country to fight these guys. You know, I go into Japan, and obviously my first fight in Japan, I was set up to lose. You know, my first fight against Tokoro, I was brought out there to lose. My second fight against Ueda was brought out there to lose. You know, every time I've been in a underdog situation. When I flew out to Russia, they didn't want me to win, but I won. You know, so I go out there and I just had a mentality change. It was like, I got to go out there and make these people suffer. And who else better to have a coach to make people suffer than Josh, right?
Love it. That's awesome.
If I may just jump back on this, you talk about getting finishes. And so after those few losses in Pancrase, you had that amazing finish at Deep 85, the one we mentioned with the front kick. That was so dope. And then you won a lot of fights. Like, you're an 8-win streak right now. And your last 3 victories are from finish to submission, 1 TKO, I think. Or maybe it's the opposite. And so let's talk about now. I would just like to your division in RIZIN right now. It's pretty wide open because, like, the former champ is coming back from an injury, Origuchi, who lost a non-title fight but still lost.
Yeah.
And Manuel Cape, who beat Asakura, I think he's going to sign to the UFC.
He is with the UFC.
Okay, and when you fought Kanehara, he was kind of brought up as he's coming back, he's going to beat that American and going to fight for the title, and you spoiled all those plans. So where do you think you fit in that wide open division right now?
I think I'm perfectly in the middle. And the reason why I say that is because I know that RIZIN wants to have a Japanese champion. Of course, you know, it looks good on RIZIN. I understand, you know, but I do feel like I can compete and beat anybody that they can throw at me. I do know it's going to be hard. I don't think I'm just going to walk through people, but I do believe that they're going to throw me in there they're either going to A, throw me in there with somebody they think is going to kill me, or B, give me somebody and just let me go. So I think I fit right in the middle, and anywhere I want to go, I think I can. You know, you mentioned Horiguchi. I wish him the best in recovery, and he's a great competitor, and he's nice. And I trained with him to get him ready for his kickboxing fight against Tenshin. But I know that, you know, if we fought, we would still eat sushi together. We would still eat Brazilian barbecue together. You know, just like we did over in Florida. I was helping him get ready for that fight, and then one night he goes, "Hey Vic, let's go eat." I said, "That's fine." So we went to an all-you-can-eat sushi and Brazilian barbecue spot. And I feel bad because I was there and I was eating and I was eating and I was eating, and he was like, "Oh, I'm done." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I kept getting up and getting food, getting up, getting food. And he's like looking at me, get up and get food. He's looking at his clock, looking at his thing. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Like, did you want to go?" He goes, "No, it's all right. Keep going, keep going." I was like, "Nah, I know you're trying to go home and sleep. Like, it's been 2 hours. We're trying, and I'm still feeding my face." So, you know, he's like I say, he's respectable. He is a proper champion because he's nice and he's approachable and he's not standoffish, and he's a great champion. You know, he fights and he does well. You know, so I wish him all the best in recovery. As far as Kai Asakura goes, you know, it was weird. I was talking to I was talking to Uchenna about that night, because that's the night I fought Trent Girdle.
Mm-hmm.
And
First fight in RIZIN.
I was talking to my striking coach, and I told him, hey, I don't know why, but I think there's going to be an upset. He goes, why? And I was like, I have no reason to tell you. I just kind of gut feeling. And then it happened, and I was like,
I should have bet.
Yeah, I should have bet, but you know, I was walking around in the crowd with my zebra pants, and everybody was kind of looking at me like, "Oh yeah, it's Victor." Yeah.
Yeah, 2019 was kind of like a bad year for the karate boxing guy, like Whitaker or Iguchi. But anyway, yeah, what you said, and you said something that I like how you carry yourself also, and like when you beat Kanea, you gave him a lot of respect post fight, and that's the most important question I had for you is that how awesome it is to fight in Japan, and having this experience for you guys from California to have so many fights in Japan. And can you talk about your experience and being in a mixed martial artist who fights in Japan a lot?
Yeah, so originally my first, like I said, my first fight in Japan, I was brought out there to lose, of course. After I won, I made it a point to be as friendly with anybody who came, you know, because even Josh told me, he's like, listen, man, the Japanese crowd, as far as MMA, is much different than the American crowd, because, you know, sometimes here in the American crowd, even when I have some wins, of course, the house is packed with the other guy's fans, and then I hear boo, even though I knocked the guy out or I choked him, you hear boo, and it's like, well, sorry, dude, I beat your guy or whatever. In Japan, they'll like you for no matter what. You went in there and you fought your ass off, and you still lost, they still give you the respect. You go in there and you win, they're there to celebrate with you. You know, they'll buy you a drink, they'll give you gifts, all sorts of just random things. You know, I remember this wasn't in Japan, but over in Russia, it was like a gingerbread house.
What?
Weird. Like, yeah, I guess somebody gave me and Josh like a gingerbread house, and they were buying buying us a bunch of drinks and everything. And, you know, personally, I don't drink, but I was just like, yeah, here you go, Josh. Here's some vodka. Here's my shot of vodka and everything. So, you know, again, in Japan, you know, they're real respectful. They're real quiet. Before this whole COVID-19 thing hit, I remember being in the hotel lobby, and a fan would come up to me, ask to shake my hand and sign something, but he would spray my hand with disinfectant, spray his hand with disinfectant, shake hands, sign their poster, and then disinfect again. I thought that was the coolest thing.
They were practicing in advance for this.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. They wanted to make. I know they wanted me to feel like I was safe and that they were safe and everything. You know, so that's why I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna go out of my way to be able to be a proper fighter and a good role model and things like that to go there.
I don't know if you have to go right now or if you have.
We're still good.
All right, cool.
We're still good.
Speaking of the wide open division, you're right in the middle of it. Assuming, you know, fights start getting booked in the nearish future, what do you want next? Who do you have anyone in particular you want to fight next? Assuming Horiguchi's not ready yet anytime soon. Is Asakura? Do you want to rematch with Ishitari? What are you looking for?
I'm only looking to fight, man. As far as MMA math, the fight that Ishiwatari and I had for Pancras, people still talk about it with me. That was a hell of a fight. I was like, yeah, I agree, it was a hell of a fight. But that wouldn't make sense for me right now, seeing how he came off a loss and I'm coming off a couple ones. So as far as MMA math, I think it would be a great fight, but it would make sense for me. I of course want to fight for the title. You know, I want to go for that title. But as far as people, I don't necessarily feel like I need to call people out, because the top of the food chain is the top of the food chain, and they're all prospective opponents. You know, I think I can compete with all of them, and if any of them want it, then they can come and get it.
If you pull off the title, which I think Phil and I both agree is a very strong possibility, should you get that opportunity. I don't know what the relationship between RIZIN and One is. Would you try and push for an opportunity to fight DJ?
Let's go.
Because
DJ at 135.
135, yes.
Yeah, possibly. Because if DJ, well, I know that DJ is walking around smaller than I am.
Right.
So if we go by the one federation weight cutting rules, then I might have to fight at 45.
Right. Well, how much weight do you cut?
I cut about 15 pounds. I get my weight to about 150, and then I cut to 35. Right. I think all those people that Ken Burrell was a great competitor, but the dude was heavy. He was walking around like a 170, getting to 35, and it's like, dude, you're gonna mess up your body. And there was a time, where people would be like, "Oh, you want to be as big as possible," and I understand you want to be big because you want to, but that I never felt that was the right way, because you get into rounds 3, 4, and 5, and your body is shutting down because you didn't rehydrate properly, or especially now with the UFC and implementing no IVs, you can't do that to your body and recover and fight a human being trying to take your head off. It's just not feasible. So I actually think that me being lighter is an advantage. Kanahara went in there and he looked swole. He was full patrol. He was in there with a great tan, a great head of hair, and he was muscular as hell. And I even tell Josh, I was like, dude, we're making 135. Why does he look so much bigger than me at 135? It's because I got big bones or something. So, as far as, fighting DJ, yeah, I'm down. We both got, Josh's original coach, Matt Hume. Right. And then, of course, his coach being Matt Hume, I think that'd be pretty fun. You guys got to remember that I've said for a long time, for me, it's not about fighting. It's about martial arts.
Right.
And it's not about who I fight for. It's about the experience that I get, being able to travel, being able to fight. This fighting is a great vehicle for me to go around, experience different cultures, fight for, of course I love competing and fighting and everything. But going out to Japan, going out to Thailand, going out to China, going out to all these countries, it's been a dream of mine since I was a kid. In Southgate, just looking at my roof, sleeping on a bed on the floor. I didn't have a room to myself until I was in my late 20s, because I finally moved out, and then I was able to, support myself a little, and then, and then eventually be able to travel, So now that I'm able to do that, yes, of course, let's go experience the world. I feel bad kind of for the people who only decide that their dream is to fight for the UFC. Now, the UFC, of course, great company. They have the top, a lot of the top fighters in the world. I'm not saying they have the top fighters in the world, because then you have some people, getting cut by UFC, and then they go to One and they get knocked the hell out, right. Or they come to RIZIN and then they're, so, the landscape of things is not just like, oh, if you're in the UFC, you're the cream of the crop and that's it. Arguably, the top 5 in the UFC are probably the best in the world. Arguably, but Eddie Alvarez, what did he do? He came in from a lesser organization, and then he worked his way to the top. He became the champion, and then he went a champion of the UFC, had a rough skip for a little bit, went to One, and then just got mocked. Where it's like, okay, well, that kind of answers the question. Is like, is the UFC the top of the top, or do they have a lot of great fighters, but not all of them are the best? So. Like I said, I feel bad for a lot of these fighters that go out there and they only experience the United States, but they're fighting for the UFC. So it's like, okay, well, I'm experiencing the world, fighting a bunch of other people, and then eventually I would, don't get me wrong, I do want to fight for the UFC one day. I do want to go out there and try my mettle against theirs. But I don't think it's a fair analysis for people to be like, oh, if you didn't fight in the UFC, therefore you're not great, you're not good. It's like, no, there's a lot of really good people out there who don't fight for the UFC, but they're also traveling the world. They're getting to see other things,
That's one of the things.
Fedor never fought for the UFC, for example.
No, go ahead, Phil.
No, just say like for example, Fedor Emelianenko, he never fought for the UFC, and
Of course,
he's gonna say that he's not like one of the best heavyweight ever. So
yeah, and that's one of the things that us at the fight site we care more about. Just like we look at a fighter objectively and go like, how good are you? We don't care if you're ranked highly. We don't care where you fight. Like if you're a good fighter, you're just a good fighter, and those things can be objectively seen. For example, we look at the guys in the I think it's now ACB, and we are massive marks for them. Edward Vartanian, AAA, Ali Bagov, and all those guys. Like we've written whole series on them, and these are people in the U.S. have never heard of them. Like people they would get mopped by like a top 15 guy. Like no, these guys are some of the best lightweights and welterweights and featherweights and all these things in the world, and people don't even know they exist. So it's just to your point, like it would be foolish for people to automatically assume the UFC is the end all be all. And like you said, you eventually do if you get the chance and opportunity, if it makes sense. You know, I would love to see you fight the guys in the UFC. There's a lot of awesome matchups for you. Another question I have is, are there any fighters that you're just a fan of that you just really like enjoy watching? Because I know some fighters just don't watch at all. They just train and compete. And there are fighters who are just nerds for the sport. Where do you fall on that? And do you have any fighters that you really are just a huge fan of?
So I've always been a real huge fan of I had his name, but then I lost it. He was a fireman, and we're not talking about Stipe.
Yeah,
he was a fireman, and he fought in the UFC. What's his name? It sucks as I say I'm a fan of Chris Lytle.
Lytle, yeah.
Oh, I love Lytle. Oh my God.
So, it's always entertaining to watch. And then he fought Dan Hardy, and then he knee-barred him, right?
Dude, he had a bunch of crazy fights.
I can see how Justin Gaethje is the new Chris Lytle. He can wrestle. We haven't really seen that much of Gaethje's submission game, but he can wrestle and he could swing and knock people the hell out. So I'm a fan of that. Israel Adesanya, he's doing amazing things with his striking. You know, what's funny is that Uchenna, one of my coaches, he goes, "Bro, I've been speaking on this stuff for a long time, and Israel Adesanya is doing it." And I keep telling my coach, but I'm 5'7" and I am not Nigerian. So I don't have that athleticism. I don't have that kind, but I am working on it. I am working on it. But a lot of the stuff my coach is teaching me. And what's funny is that Curtis Millender will actually hit me up sometimes, be like, "That's Uchenna stuff. That's Uchenna stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. You're right." So Adesanya is really fun to watch. Henry Cejudo's good from a professional to professional standpoint. But if I'm going to step back and just be a fan, a
little cringe.
Yeah, well, it's like, okay, yeah, you set this game plan, and of course, 100%, you go in there to win. You got to do what you got to win. But if I'm just going to be this guy who is just like, I'm just a fan, I want to see somebody go out there and just go for it. Gaethje, he's doing it. It's in Barboza. Ooh, he's fun to watch. Erik Kukui, of course. Tony Ferguson, he's fun to watch. Oh, it was funny. I got a little funny story about Tony Ferguson. So there's a meat store, which we call a carniceria, in Spanish. There's a meat store over in Southgate. And I used to go over there every other couple days after practice. I'd go and I'd eat, get a burrito, get whatever. And then the guy, the new owner, he looks at me. He goes, "Hey, do you know who El Cucuy is?" Because he sees my ears. He goes, "You know who El Cucuy is?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah, do you know El Cucuy from The Fighter? The Fighter." And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "He's married to my cousin." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool, man." So apparently, I have a closer relationship to Tony Ferguson than I know. He's married to my cousin. All right, dog, that's cool, man. So where's my burrito, man? Where's my burrito?
That's great. I love that. Phil, you have any other questions for
Yeah,
Victor?
no, I was just gonna say, I think it's great what you said, like about, like me from the fight side, I'm like the guy who loves action fighters, and I kind of like don't care about win or loss when I watch like a fighter's career. I just watch the fights. Of course, for you it's different. You want to win, you want to be able to move in your career. But like you mentioned, like Chris Little, for example, when you say his name, I thought about like 3 fights of him, like the Thiago Alves, stuff like this. And it happened that he lost those fights. But that's the first one I remember because they were like awesome fights. It's like, in boxing, like the Morales, Barrera, I don't care who won, who lost. I just remember, those fights, they were just like the best. Like, maximum effort, that's all you can ask from athletes. And I feel that you already had that state of mind in the small documentary that Ben mentioned from MMAfighting.com like 5-6 years ago. And going to Japan, they embrace that mentality, like you said, like you can lose if you give everything you have, you'll be celebrated. Like, and I feel it's very refreshing for even for us to meet martial artists like you that really live that martial artist life. Like to improve as a person, to help people, to help yourself, and to get better, and just not being like, I want to win, I want to make the most money. So I want to thank you for this. It's very cool for us to meet guys like you, to talk with you about martial arts. And because you said like even when you were young, you were kind of like not different, but you have like your own way of seeing things, and it's a way to express yourself. And that if there was martial arts, you'd probably be struggling in your everyday life. So so you probably give inspiration to people who have like a 9-to-5 job and kind of are too scared to move on. And I feel what you do is great. You give hope to people. I just wanted to say that.
I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. And to go to the point that you said where you want to see people improve, we have a number of amateurs on our team, and of course they always want to win. Everybody wants to go undefeated. Everybody wants to. But anytime our amateurs lose, but they lose in a way where they improved on the things that were sticking points to them. Maybe they couldn't get takedowns, but they were getting takedowns. Maybe they just got submitted. Or they're wrestlers and they don't want to strike at all, but they actually stayed striking, and maybe they lost a 3-round decision. We embrace people getting better. I'm in here with the amateurs, and I'll put myself in the worst positions so they can do something. I will purposely not do something just so they can work on getting better in a certain area. And a lot of friends of mine, they say, oh, well, Victor doesn't have any kids and blah, 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 so he can do this. And I'm like, that wasn't an accident. I chose when I was 18, I was like, I'm going to live this martial arts lifestyle. I'm going to get up, I'm going to train, I'm going to go to work, and then I'm going to go back to training, and then I'm going to rest for a couple hours, and then I'm going to go train again. I always tell amateurs and people who are new to this, it's never about what I can't do. It's always about what I can do. There have been times where my legs are messed up from whatever, crazy circuit that Josh put me through, or maybe I just have a hard fight and my legs are hurting. So, but I still got to get conditioning done. So what do? I sit on my butt and I get the battling ropes and I go for it. It's never about what I can't do. It's about what you can do. And if all I can do right now is throw a jab, and then guess what? That's all I'm going to do, But that's the martial arts lifestyle. I learned to get the lessons I learned in martial arts and apply them to my life, And it always comes back to the same thing. What can you do? Well, if I can't do this, well, I can do this, so I'm going to do that. And I'm always going to work to better myself. And I think that's one of the reasons why Josh has accepted me as a fighter, because he sees that I will try to improve myself no matter how uncomfortable it is for me. Except for reading books. Oh, man, he's throwing some books at me, and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to read.
All right, thank you so much, Victor. That was pretty inspiring, pretty awesome. I don't have any more questions. I don't know, Ben, but thank you so much. That was awesome talking with you.
I was going to say,
thank you very much.
Dude, I was going to say this off camera, but like, I genuinely appreciate everything you just said so much, because you described a lot of, I didn't, come from as crazy a street situation as you, for sure. No question. I came from like an Orthodox Jewish home. It's not like that growing up on the mean streets of religious Jewish Flatbush in Brooklyn,
Okay.
But like I didn't have friends. I was like the weird kid. That was the kid who would sit and read the history books, and like when everyone's going to play sports, I'm watching like cartoons and anime and all that stuff. And so like growing up, like I didn't have friends, and I grew up in that situation where it's like I was the odd one out, the weird one, and I also eventually turned to martial arts the same way. I turned to MMA, I turned to jiu-jitsu. So hearing you just describe like just get better, don't worry about the losses, is what you can do, and it's things that I think a lot of people need to know and hear growing up, because a lot of people in that situation and don't know what to do, and it's just like be yourself and do what will make you grow in the way you want to grow, and don't worry about it. And I think that can absolutely describe you as you're forging your own path, and I love it. And I felt that actually, like I really did. Yeah, I don't have any more questions. I just wanted to let you know that. I actually really was awesome to hear you say that.
Oh, I have one more thing.
Oh, sorry.
When you get your next fight book, can we do it again?
Absolutely.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
dope.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. I would love to get more into actual training camp too, like during a training camp. It'd be really cool to like get more insight into that. Well, Victor, again, thank you so much. You stayed for a lot longer than we thought you would, so we really appreciate that. Before we sign off, anything you want to plug, anything you want to say, shout out before we go?
Yeah, man, I'd like to thank the Bowery in Fullerton for sponsoring me. Cold Steel Knives. If you're out in Japan, go to Metal Justice Bar. They got some good stuff. If you're out in LA, go to Gentleman's Fight Club over there in LA, Chinatown. It's right across from a place called Howlin' Rays, and they got good fried chicken. Go for it, man. Also, Haleo, I'd like to thank them for sponsoring me on my supplements, because you know what, keeping weight on these skinny bones is hard, but they're managing to keep me buff, so we're good, man. And I'd like to thank guys like you actually get my exposure out there, and a lot of times that's what we need. We need exposure, and guys like you are helping guys like us out.
Anytime. You're welcome anytime. If you want to just come watch some fights with us and we can commentate, if you want to do another interview, if you want to watch some fights, we'll drink if you want. If you're not into that. Oh man, dude, thank you so much again. Phil, thank you for helping me and joining me with this one.
My pleasure, brother.
Remember, check out the fight site. Fantastic content. Make sure you support Victor. Follow him on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever he's got. Make sure you go and follow him. Send him some love. Tell him you found him through the fight site, and send him some love. Make sure you support us on the Patreon. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment. That definitely helps us out. Apple, Stitcher, and there's a Spotify. Thank you again, Victor. Have a great day. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to the next time you fight and just talking to you again.
Thanks again for having me, guys.